Born on 11th June 1920, Mahendra Bir Bikram Shah Dev's life was destined for leadership. As a prince, he received a privileged education, initially within the walls of the royal palace. His studies encompassed a range of subjects including languages, history and the arts, preparing him for the multifaceted role he would one day inherit. Unlike his father Tribhuvan, who favored a more liberal approach, Mahendra grew up witnessing the constraints placed upon the monarchy by the Rana regime. The Ranas, hereditary prime ministers, held the true reins of power, relegating the Shah dynasty to a symbolic position. This experience profoundly shaped Mahendra's worldview, instilling in him a desire for a strong and assertive monarchy. Despite the confines of palace life, Mahendra sought knowledge and experiences beyond the traditional curriculum. He developed a keen interest in Nepal's diverse cultures and traveled extensively throughout the kingdom, gaining first-hand exposure to the lives of his future subjects. This early exposure to the realities of Nepal outside the palace walls would later influence his policies and initiatives. Mahendra ascended to the throne in 1955 upon the death of his father, King Tribhuvan. His reign began at a pivotal juncture in Nepal's history. The nation was undergoing a period of significant political and social change. The Rana regime, which had held sway over Nepal for over a century, had recently been overthrown. A nascent democracy was taking root, with political parties emerging and vying for power. This new era presented both opportunities and challenges for the young king. He inherited a country grappling with the legacy of autocratic rule, eager for progress and modernization. The expectations placed upon him were immense. The people looked to their new king for guidance and stability in this uncertain period. However, the transition to a democratic system was fraught with complexities. Political factions were divided, and the experience of democratic governance was limited. This instability created an environment of uncertainty, leaving many questioning the viability of a multi-party system in Nepal. In 1959, King Mahendra took a significant step by overseeing Nepal's first-ever general elections. This decision was widely seen as a commitment to democratic principles and earned him considerable goodwill both domestically and internationally. The Nepali Congress Party, led by Bishweshwar Prasad Koirala, emerged victorious, ushering in a period of elected government. However, the honeymoon period of this nascent democracy was short-lived. Tensions between the monarchy and the elected government quickly surfaced. King Mahendra, wary of the potential for instability and encroachment on his royal prerogatives, grew increasingly disillusioned with the multi-party system. He expressed concerns about the government's ability to maintain law and order, manage the country's fragile economy, and safeguard Nepal's sovereignty in a rapidly changing world. These concerns, whether genuine or politically motivated, would ultimately lead to a dramatic shift in Nepal's political landscape. In 1960, King Mahendra made a decisive move that would redefine Nepal's political trajectory. He dismissed the elected government, suspended the constitution, and assumed direct control of the state. This marked the end of Nepal's brief experiment with parliamentary democracy and ushered in an era of absolute monarchy. To consolidate his power, King Mahendra introduced the Panchayat system, a system of governance rooted in the principles of hierarchy and consensus. This system, inspired by traditional village councils, aimed to create a partyless democracy, with representatives chosen from various levels of society. The Panchayat system effectively centralized power in the hands of the monarchy. It curtailed political dissent, limited freedom of speech, and suppressed opposition parties. Critics argued that the system was a guise for authoritarianism designed to maintain the king's grip on power. Despite these criticisms, the Panchayat system endured for 3 decades, becoming deeply entrenched in Nepal's political and social fabric. Beyond his political reforms, King Mahendra is also remembered for his ambitious modernization drive. He recognized the need to uplift Nepal from its impoverished and underdeveloped state. His vision encompassed various sectors, including education, infrastructure, and social reform. He invested heavily in expanding educational opportunities, establishing new schools and universities across the country. Recognizing the importance of connecting Nepal's remote regions, he prioritized infrastructure development, overseeing the construction of roads, bridges, and hydroelectric projects. Mahendra also introduced legal reforms aimed at dismantling social hierarchies and promoting gender equality. His initiatives included abolishing the practice of untouchability and granting women greater property rights. While these reforms had a positive impact on Nepal's development trajectory, they were often implemented through a top-down approach, with limited space for public participation or dissent. Critics argue that his focus on development often came at the expense of political freedoms, further entrenching the power of the monarchy. Section 6. International Relations, Navigating the Cold War Tightrope. King Mahendra's reign coincided with the height of the Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. This global power struggle had significant implications for Nepal, a small nation sandwiched between the two giants of India and China. Navigating this complex geopolitical landscape with astute diplomacy became a hallmark of Mahendra's foreign policy. He adopted a policy of non-alignment, refusing to take sides in the Cold War rivalry. This pragmatic approach allowed him to maintain cordial relations with both the Western Bloc and the Communist Bloc. He skillfully leveraged Nepal's strategic location to secure foreign aid and investment from both sides of the Iron Curtain. This influx of resources contributed significantly to Nepal's development efforts, particularly in infrastructure and education. Section 7. A Legacy of Controversy, Repression and Censorship. Despite his achievements in modernization and development, King Mahendra's legacy remains deeply contested. His critics argue that his reign was marked by political repression, curtailment of civil liberties, and systematic suppression of dissent. The Panchayat system, with its emphasis on consensus and hierarchy, effectively silenced opposition voices. Political parties were banned, and those who dared to challenge the monarchy's authority faced imprisonment, exile, or worse. Censorship was rampant, with the media tightly controlled and freedom of expression severely restricted. Books, newspapers, and even music deemed critical of the monarchy were banned, creating an environment of fear and self-censorship. These actions cast a long shadow over his legacy, leading many to view his reign as a period of authoritarian rule that stifled political pluralism and democratic aspirations. Section 8. Death of a King, the End of an Era. On 31st January 1972, at the age of 51, King Mahendra died of a heart attack while on a hunting trip. His sudden death sent shockwaves throughout Nepal, marking the end of an era. He was succeeded by his son Birendra, who inherited a nation grappling with the legacy of his father's rule. Mahendra's death did little to quell the debates surrounding his legacy. While some mourned him as a strong and visionary leader who modernized Nepal and safeguarded its sovereignty, others saw him as an autocrat who suppressed democracy and trampled upon human rights. Section 9. The debate continues. Mahendra's place in Nepal's history. Today, more than 50 years after his death, King Mahendra remains a polarizing figure in Nepal's history. His legacy continues to be debated and re-evaluated, with no easy answers or simple narratives. His supporters point to his role in modernizing Nepal, his astute handling of foreign relations, and his efforts to forge a distinct Nepali identity. They argue that his actions, while at times authoritarian, were necessary to maintain stability and guide Nepal through a turbulent period. His detractors, however, emphasize the suppression of democracy, the curtailment of civil liberties, and the pervasive atmosphere of fear that characterized his reign. They argue that his focus on development came at too high a price, sacrificing fundamental freedoms for economic progress. Ultimately, King Mahendra's place in Nepal's history remains complex and contested. He was a man of contradictions, a modernizing autocrat, a shrewd diplomat with a penchant for control. His legacy, like the man himself, defies easy categorization, serving as a reminder of the complexities of power, progress, and the enduring struggle for democracy in Nepal.